It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Jen Cohen as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio with us. Brian Klimowski, meteorologist in charge of the National Weather Service in Belmont. Welcome back.
Nice to be back, Paul.
We've got Brian in here at least twice a year. Once to do a recap of fall and winter and a look at spring and summer. And I tell you, spring and summer was pretty good this year, and I think you guys were pretty much dead on when you were here last time talking about spring and summer. And fall and winter, as we know, was brutal and horrible. And then, but today we're going to look back at spring and summer, because summer is summer over officially? Just about. Almost. Just about.
Yeah, another day.
Like a day left, left of summer. And then a look ahead at fall and winter and see what we can expect there. So how you been?
I've been well, keeping busy, very active spring and summer, especially the monsoon here at work. It was a big one for us. Okay,
let's start with spring. How was spring? It seemed kind of short-lived.
Yeah. Spring was short-lived. We were under the, veil of just, a very large fire threat with the fall being so dry, lack of snow in the winter. We were just going day to day through the spring in our fire season, hoping that no large fires would start. And thank goodness we got through it without any major incidents.
It was, I think it was an amazing spring because, I think we started our wildfire PSAs probably, I want to say back in February.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that bad, that fast. Wherever you looked, it was brown. The world has changed considerably in Arizona since then, but February, March, April, I think we had Coconino National Forest, Prescott National Forest, Kaibab National Forest. We had all of them in, like monthly, I think, to talk about just what the current conditions were. So, and you guys, speaking of that, you guys kind of work hand in hand with the Forest Service, don't you? Quite a bit?
Very much so. Very much so. We're on weekly, if not daily, conference calls with them during the peak periods. We actually send meteorologists to some of their locations during the peak times this season. When there are fires, active fires in Arizona, we have a meteorologist on those fires, actually working with the fire managers to help them.
That brings up a question I was going to do a little bit later, but did you have folks heading out of state this year to go help other states where the wildfires were going on?
Several, several of our meteorologists spent a considerable amount of time out of state.
Okay, California was bad this year.
Montana, Colorado. Can't remember if we sent any to California this year. So.
Do they not have their own, or I know they probably have their own meteorologist there, but what is the point of taking somebody from Arizona and, say, sending them to Montana to do the weather?
Well, these are scientists that are trained in fire meteorology, so they know it very well. And the West, the weather in the West is pretty uniform. Whether you're in the mountains of northern Arizona, the Sky Islands of the Great Basin, or up in Montana, these guys know it very well. And there's a limited number of resources. Let's say 3 or 4 meteorologists per state. A lot more in California, of course, because it's so large. That can move around and help cover all of these fires.
Okay.
But as we start to ramp up into the peak of the fire season, those resources start to get limited. California might have already sent some meteorologists to Colorado, and then a whole bunch of fires break out in California, so we need to move resources there. So it's a shell, game to where you're trying to cover. Shell game is the wrong term to use.
No, I understand what you're saying.
It's like whack-a-mole. Fire pops up here, you have to send resources. Fire pops up here, you have to send resources. So, sometimes you have folks on vacation and you have to cover. So they're basically sent everywhere, though the preference is to keep your IMETs, they're called, incident meteorologists that are helping out with the fires. Keep them in your backyard because they know the weather the best there.
Yeah, so. and we've talked in the past that Arizona's weather is so diverse from Phoenix to Cottonwood to Flagstaff. It changes so dramatically and so quickly that I don't know how you guys do it. I've talked about it over the years because it is such a huge change in geography between the two areas. So it's kind of hard it's even hard for me to take your weather forecast and try to make it sound like it's what I'm saying about Cottonwood is the same as Flagstaff, because it really isn't. So I try to do a kind of a general bubble around the entire area of our broadcast area and say, okay, this is generally what we're going to have going on today. So, you know, that's kind of how that works. How many do we have in the state, fire weather guys?
We have, I believe, 5 incident meteorologists.
That seems like a good amount.
It is. It is. There's 2 in our office, Phoenix and Tucson also.
Well, spring went through. People were one less spark. We had some of that happen. We did lose some homes this year. We did have some wildfires happen this year that took houses. We were all biting our nails. But in the end, it seemed we had a couple of major events in Coconino County. We had a couple of smaller ones here in Yavapai County where we had evacuations and things like that take place. And again, we did lose some homes. But then monsoon. And I always tag my stories that the monsoon typically starts right around the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So this year, how did the monsoon? Did it arrive on time? How was it?
Yeah, right on time. I mean, with the dry fall, dry winter, lack of snowfall, we were expecting it to, we were expecting the onset of the monsoon to be a bit early this year, but really it just came right on time. Around the 4th of July or just after is where we saw the monsoon pattern take place with the ridge of high pressure over the 4 corners and that sweep of moisture coming up from the south. So it kind of pretty much came on time.
I felt like we got tricked there at the beginning too, because there was something coming up out of the Baja California, and everyone's like, oh yeah, the monsoon's here, and it lasted for a few days because it was a pretty sizable, what was it, like a tropical depression or something that was coming up? Okay, if I remember right, and it came up the Baja, and we all got a little bit wet for a few days, but then it dried out for like a week right after that. We're like,
almost 2 weeks, and you know, as it always does, it gets very hot before the start of the monsoon. So, you know, the real peak of the fire season is normally right before the monsoon starts, or soon after it starts with all the lightning starts. And we've been, you know, suffering with smoke from one of those lightning starts here for a lot of the summer, haven't we?
Since the end of July, the rhino and the platypus fires. I need to get those guys in here and find out why they named them that in the beginning. It seems such bizarre names for 2 wildfires. But Secret Mountain Wilderness Area, Sedona, everybody in the Verde Valley and Flagstaff knows about those 2 fires and the smoke that they have put off. Because, the monsoon would get heavy. And then everybody would be like, oh yeah, look at all this nice rain stuff. And then it would dry out for a week or so. And all of a sudden it's like, where is this smoke coming from? Well, those 2 fires were ignited back on, I want to say July 26th or 28th.
Yeah, late July.
Long time burning. And hopefully for the rest of this week and into the next week, we'll have less and less smoke coming off those because they finished the burnout operation. So we're looking better there. The monsoon itself was amazing, I think, this year. Was it amazing or was it typical?
Depends where you were, Paul. You talk to folks in Coconino County, Yavapai County, basically, you know, south of I-40 and west of I-17, and they loved it. You know, we had a good, solid monsoon, well above average, anywhere between, you know, 120% to 300% of average, kind of depending on where you were. So
the northeast portion of the state, though, did not fare very well. And Show Low, I want to say Show Low is mixed in with that batch, too.
Show Low was dry.
Which is unusual for Show Low.
Yeah.
Isn't that unusual? Is it unusual for Show Low to have a dry monsoon, a dry fall and winter, and then a dry monsoon as well?
Well, that'd be unusual for almost any location to see that persistence. Show Low, you know, runs the same roll of the dice that we all do. You know, is it going to be dry or wet this monsoon? You know,
well, they had some lousy rollers this year.
They did. Yeah. A lot of the Northeast did, and that's where the greatest drought is right now, over the Northeast, over the native lands. You know, Window Rock, the Hopi Reservation, Cameron, that area.
I want to say Apache and Navajo County in general.
Especially northern Apache and Navajo County. The southern parts near the White Mountains, you know, had about 15 inches of rain. You know, they did pretty well. So I mean, still a bit below average, but pretty well. So
we have to take our first break. Okay. Brian Klimowski from the National Weather Service in Belmont in studio today. Their website is weather.gov/Flagstaff. You'll pull up the same page I look at every morning when I bring in the weather forecast. Stick around. Countywide back in just a couple minutes.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
How I define making? In the broadest possible terms, it is making something extant in the world that didn't exist. Everybody who's ever made anything is bringing something into fruition for a reason, and that act in and of itself makes us stewards of our culture. It's something that we're talking about. It's a response. Actually, it's telling a story. That's really what it is. And I include everything that could be made: painting, sculpture, welding, all of that.
Yellow is positive.
When a kid gets their hands on the world and learns that they can make their fantasy play, that they can make their reality, that's power. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone should feel that kind of power. There we go. If there's something that interests you to bring into the world, that's fantastic. Go figure out how to do it. Go tell your own story. There it is. And so I want to know why you make. Let's go.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyiMake.org.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Welcome back to Countywide. Brian Klimowski from the National Weather Service in Belmont in studio with us today, talking about, well, we just kind of recapped spring and summer a little bit, but you've got some more, some of the events that took place during the monsoon.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this. But first, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
Talk about how many warnings the National Weather Service issues in a given monsoon season.
Oh, can you give me that number?
Oh, yeah. You know, if it's severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings, or flash flood warnings, you know, it might be 100, 150 a year. You know,
is that
for
that's the
northern
average?
area. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you know, average.
Okay.
This year, over 320.
Oh, wow.
It was a very busy severe weather season for us. We were hopping. We didn't have any, you know, very large monsoon breaks this year until the very end, early September. So we were just hopping all year. There almost every day was, you know, some kind of event going on. But we really had some outstanding rainfall events this year. In the Flagstaff area, we had, let me just pull up some dates here.
Yeah.
Mid to late July was extremely busy for the area. July 15th, we had that large flood event over you know, much of northern and eastern part of
the downtown
Flagstaff.
area for sure flooded.
Downtown area,
right.
We had 2 to 3 inches of rain. Or, I'm sorry, we had 1.5 to 2.5 inches of rainfall in just 1 hour, which is really an outstanding amount for this for this part of the country. I mean, that's, you know, what they might call a 100 to 200 year event. It's very rare, or the chance of it occurring in a given year is just 1%, or maybe a 0.5%. So they're very rare.
Okay.
Caused a lot of flooding in the Flagstaff area. And then just a couple days later, we had a major rain event over the old Schultz Burn area, you know, which is about 6 miles north and east of Flagstaff, up there on Highway 89 in the Timberline area. That was another outstanding heavy rain event where we had almost 6 inches of rainfall in just a couple hours. What was incredible is it fell over such a large area, very broad area, so the amount of flooding that occurred was very significant.
Right.
Again, a very rare event. And then soon after that, near the Flagstaff Mall, we had 4.5 inches of rainfall in just 1 hour and 45 minutes. So just in the Flagstaff area alone, we had multiple very heavy rain events. But that doesn't capture what happened over the state. You know, here in our own backyard, in the Verde Valley and the Prescott area, we had 7 flood events this year on the Big Bug Creek in Mayer. You know, to where it rose, you know, over 2 to 5 to 6 feet. Over the old Goodwin fire scar. So that was very, very active. Areas in the southern hills of Prescott had over 15 inches of rain this monsoon season, over twice as much.
That's unbelievable to me. It's so much. It's
over a foot.
Right.
Over a foot. And we're talking, you know, we say monsoon season, we're talking 7 weeks. You know, we're talking a pretty short period of time to get over a foot of rain. Parts of the San Francisco peaks had almost 20 inches, almost 2 feet of rain.
I know Jerome was up over 11 inches of rain.
Jerome had 12 point, got it right here. Jerome had what, 12 point, I don't have it. 12 and a half inches in Jerome. So a big monsoon.
These are bigger numbers than I remember talking about in the past in the news.
Yeah.
You know, because those are well above what the average is for
well
the monsoon.
Above, you know.
But we needed that, though, to make up for what we didn't get in the fall.
We did. The fall, I mean, we had nothing in the fall. I mean, zilch.
Fall and winter was pretty much zilch, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, you guys measure water for the state October to October.
Yes.
First, why is that? Why isn't it January to January? Why is it October to October?
Well, we do both. Okay. The calendar year, of course, for obvious reasons. The water year starts in October and ends on October 1st.
Okay, water year. Then why October to October?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Specifically. It's just always been that way that I'm aware of. It's attached to agriculture and just capturing a full winter season versus splitting the winter season, you know, on January 1st. Okay. So it captures all the snowfall, all of the precipitation that can be a reservoir for agriculture in the spring, and then we normally have a dry period in the late summer and early fall. So it kind of captures the characteristics of the precipitation and how it's used economically better than year to year.
And we're not caught up for our water year.
Not even close. Not even close.
Several inches below what we should be.
Flagstaff area about 5.5 inches short still.
We're not going to make it, are we?
We aren't going to make it. I mean, you know, you never know what's going to happen.
We could have one of those.
You know, we're talking only a couple weeks. Nah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, we're not going to make it.
We had that thing yesterday.
That was nice.
It was nice.
Wasn't that nice?
It was nice. It was very cool. It was nice rain, and from what I understand, it rained from Cottonwood all the way to Flagstaff. There was a nice swath all the way through there. So everybody got a little bit of something right there. But yeah, it seems like for our year it's going to be over, because you guys have been putting out these reports that I told you about prior to the show that I really like, and it just kind of recaps. There's the drought report that you guys have been putting out, so I've been bringing that to listeners as well to make sure they know how drought conditions are in the state. And if there's one thing that hasn't changed, Yavapai County, Coconino County has had some improvements throughout the monsoon, and it's changed dramatically throughout the monsoon. But that northeast portion of the state has just really been hurting, and it just doesn't seem to get a break up there.
It's bad up there.
Yeah.
It's bad, yeah. The drought continues. We have to keep that in mind. Even though we might be seeing the precipitation here go up to the north and east, it's not been happening.
Still got to be careful with the fire wherever we go. Let's take our second break. We'll come back. We're going to Brian's going to give us a quick look ahead at the fall and winter and what we can expect for the rest of the year this year. Countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
It appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you'll go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
Welcome back to Countywide. Just a few minutes left of the program. Again, the website is weather.gov/Flagstaff. Brian Klimowski, head meteorologist in charge at the Weather Service in Belmont. Those are the people I call every Friday. We get our weekend weather, look at the week ahead, and you guys give us the forecast that I use every single day. Fall and winter. We're all hoping for something better than what we saw last year, which I guess isn't saying much because anything would be better than last year. But what does it look like?
You know, we're looking up. We're looking up. Right now, we have a weak to moderate El Nino in place. That means the equatorial Pacific ocean temperatures are warmer than normal, and that normally correlates to a wetter winter and spring for us. So we're seeing these signals in place, and the professionals that analyze these data, the Climate Prediction Center, you know, they're saying there's a better chance than not that that this winter is going to be near average or above average for us. Now, it's been so long, and we've had so few average winters around here as far as precipitation and snowfall, that if we had one or another one, I think people would think it was a major event. But no, we're confident. And I've gone out and said that I'm, well, very confident it's going to be wetter than last fall. Of course, last fall we had just about zero precipitation, so that's a slam dunk. But
right. How could you be wrong?
But no, things seriously, we are looking. It's looking favorable for you know, for near normal or above normal precipitation this fall through this winter. What we see in the signals is this El Nino is likely going to last through the spring as well. So, you know, we're going to keep our fingers crossed. Again, temperatures anticipated to be a bit above normal as well. It's pretty common nowadays. You know, we're confident. We were good with our forecast of an above normal monsoon. I hope the same thing pans out for this winter.
So do we. I mean, so when we have an El Nino off of the Pacific, that tends to push that, I want to say, high pressure or something further north of us. And when the storms come down out of the Pacific Northwest, they're able to actually get in the door and come across the state?
You bet.
Is that right? Look at me, I'm a meteorologist.
It's right enough. I mean, you know, basically what it does is it allows for an available pool of moisture
to flow into the state.
To flow in the state. So if any storms do come down, boom, there's more moisture, more precipitation, more snowfall. So.
Okay. What's average for, say, the Flagstaff area, snowfall?
Average snowfall? If you look at our historic average, might be about 80 inches a year. The last 30 years, you know, about 100 inches.
100 inches.
Yeah.
We need that.
8 feet of snow.
8 feet of snow. Would that? Are we ever going to be able to get out of a drought in the state of Arizona? Because you hear drought conditions, drought conditions, and pretty soon I think we kind of think, oh, whatever. It's, you know, of course we're in the desert. We're in Arizona. We don't all live in the desert though. But will we ever see something like that where we're out of the drought, where it's just, well, we're not in the drought anymore?
You know, that's
so long, wouldn't it?
That's a great question. You know, there are large-scale oscillations in the atmosphere and on the Earth that are on the scales of 20 to 30 years. And, you know, there are some indications that we're kind of in the middle of one of these dry periods in the Southwest, that, you know, this drought that we've, you know, seen over the past 10 years, 15 years could extend another 10 to 15 years. Will we ever get out of it? I would say everything is cyclic, so yes, we're likely to go out, come in, come out. But there's long-term factors that change. You know, the warming of the atmosphere impacts the droughts and what we might see in the future.
Climate change, just so everybody knows, Brian is going to stick around and do a second show with me that we're going to air a little further down the road, but we are going to talk climate change and just what the Weather Service and Brian has experienced up at the Weather Service. That's all we got time for.
All right.
That's it. So fall and winter, keep your fingers crossed. El Nino, stay out there as long as you can. And bring it our way. We'll take it. All right. So website again is weather.gov. Brian, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Paul.
Weather.gov// Flagstaff is the website you want. That's today's Countywide. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.